McQuaid here. I'd like to welcome you to HCIN600 Research Methods, an online course for which I am the instructor this term. I'd like to use this video to not only welcome you, but also to tell you about three things. The first is a very special resource we have available this semester. As you may know, we have a star researcher in the department, HCIN, who has become president of the HCIN. She has made a lot of videos for this class, and we're going to be using those. And they're going to be really great. You're going to really like them, I'm sure. But there is a little problem with them. They were recorded in a previous semester during a face-to-face class with Vicky's grading method. So you will notice sometimes in the videos some things that conflict with this semester. And those are, she mentions in-person class meetings, which we don't have. This is an online class, although of course you're always welcome to visit me in my office or to visit me face-to-face on Google Chat. And in addition to mentioning class meetings, she'll also mention her grading scheme, which is not the same as the one you'll find in the syllabus. And that brings me to the second thing that I want to talk to you about, which is the syllabus. So the syllabus rules in this class. If there's any conflict between anything you see in a video and the syllabus, take the syllabus seriously, forget the video. If I'm going to make any changes in class policy as the semester progresses, those will be reflected as changes in the syllabus and will be available to everyone. I'm not going to make any sidebar deals with individuals, policy exceptions for individuals. The only way that I might change the policy is if I change it for everybody, and everybody has access to it through a new copy of the syllabus. And the syllabus will have a date of last update, and it's on My Courses, so it's available to you. The third thing that I want to bring up is the My Courses site. Because this is an online class, we're going to have to rely a lot on My Courses. And in particular, we're going to rely on the Content tab in My Courses. So there's going to be a lot of redundancy in what you see on the Contents tab there. And so what I'd like you to do is take a look at the weekly tabs there to get your guidelines for what to do for a particular week. And in there you will find basically several kinds of things. First, and very important for you, are the weekly questions. These are abbreviated WQ. So for on the first week tab, you'll see two WQs, WQ1 and WQ2. Usually there'll only be one WQ, but the first week you're going to have two weekly questions. The very first one asks you to give your background, and this is very important not only for you but for others in the class, because you're going to be doing group projects. So that brings us to another thing that you're going to see on the Contents tab, which is some information about the group projects. So this is a research methods class, and the best way to learn research methods is probably to do some research. So you're going to do 3 research projects as group projects, and then one that will be your own. So you'll find that on the Contents tab in My Courses. And then you'll also find videos. The videos not only from Vicky, but other videos to look at on My Courses that should stimulate your discussion, and reading materials that you'll need to spend a lot of time examining in order to really understand a lot of things about research methods. And this week in particular, you're going to get some videos about research ethics. So there are 3 videos, I think. First, Vicky's Welcome, which is good because it's good to know some background about Vicky Hansen. Then one on the scientific method, which is useful because that is kind of an umbrella around everything that we do. And then third, one on research ethics. And there is one thing missing from the research ethics video. It's interesting, it's from one of the co-authors of the Belmont report, but he doesn't actually explicitly mention the 3 values embodied in the Belmont report. So I'd like to briefly tell you what those 3 values are. And they may sound vague at first until I explain. So the 3 values are respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. Now those sound like very big words, but they're meant very specifically. When he describes the Belmont report and talks about the background of the Belmont report, what you'll find is that there were scientists who lacked respect for persons, in the sense that they thought that people, human subjects, and in HCI research we do a lot with human subjects, So we have to ask human subjects if they want to participate. And there have been cases of scientists who didn't think that their human subjects were smart enough to understand their experiments, so they didn't really explain the implications of them. And in some cases, this was dangerous or even fatal to the participants. For example, they didn't tell. There was a case of scientists who didn't tell participants that they would be exposed to disease and they would not receive the cure for the disease. So this kind of shocking behavior is part of what led to the Belmont Report. So you have to show respect for persons in your research, and that means getting informed consent. That means that you have to assume that the people that are participating in your experiments are able to understand well enough to make their own judgment after you inform them about what's going to happen. Then they have to give consent. So the principle of respect for persons is connected to the principle of informed consent. Then the second is beneficence. So the idea here is that the research must have some kind of good outcome. It can't simply be for scientific curiosity. Now, it's perfectly fine for research just to be for scientific curiosity. I'm not saying that scientific curiosity is bad. What we're talking about in the case of beneficence is human subjects. So it's unreasonable to expect a human subject to participate in research that is simply for scientific curiosity. We have to assume that there's some good outcome for humanity from the research. And the third is justice. And this is a little bit difficult to explain, except with examples. So suppose that you ask a black person to participate in research that will only benefit white people. That's unjust. So justice means that the participants are not excluded from the benefits of the research. Now, the individual participant doesn't need to be a beneficiary of the research. They need to be part of the group. They need to not be specifically excluded from the benefits of the research. So that's a little bit of a subtle distinction. And all three of these concepts, respect for persons, beneficence, and justice, come from cases where scientific research was conducted without one or more of these things. And the co-author of the Belmont Report in the video mentions some of the most egregious examples, and you may have in psychology classes have studied about some of these examples: the Nazi experiments, the experiments on obedience and authority, the prison guard experiment, and the Tuskegee study are the most famous examples of egregious violations of these three principles. So keep those three principles in mind, because he doesn't mention them specifically: respect for persons, beneficence, and justice, and think about how they play out in your own research. So you have those three videos to watch. You have 2 weekly questions to answer, the first of which is about your background, and that's going to be something that's going to be very important for your group members as well as for yourself. And then there are also some readings. And I'll see you soon, either on video, on Google Chat, or in my office. Welcome again to HCIN 600.